You went ahead and took a shot with Justin Rose.
I do every tournament. You know that.
Every tournament you take him. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he's my. I mean, it used to be Oosthuizen, and then he doesn't play anymore. You know, my basic theory is like I hate to bet the favorites.
If Scotty Scheffler won 9 tournaments, which he did last year, but you would be barely breaking even with him if you bet him in every tournament. Barely breaking even if you bet him at 4-1 or less.
This is why my
hope. 9 times, an incredible 9 times.
This is why my hope is that there will be some member of the Augusta police force who looked at Scotty Scheffler and sees a man for who he is, which is a scumbag who drags cops behind his car for no reason and shoots Scotty Scheffler in the parking lot like he deserves. That would be the the best outcome for those of us who did bet this. Is if a cop takes revenge for his brother law enforcement who got dragged behind a car by Scotty Scheffler last year. Unfortunately, they've switched the Doral event to a Live Tour event because I was fully prepared to go there and plant some crack in Scheffler's rental car, and they call the cops and tell them I saw him selling it at a school zone. But
the time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Very pleasant. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Degenerate Friday edition of the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest. We got one Mike Lubie Lubitz. Another week zooming on by. Just incredible to me. Because I was thinking, I was sitting in this chair last Friday thinking, oh, good, it's the weekend. And whoosh, we're already on to the next one. So Easter Sunday coming up on Sunday. That should be a big day for a lot of people. Family get-togethers. Is that the final day of, as we call it, a Pesach?
Yes.
Final day. Okay. Yes. And what happens? Is there a ceremonial dinner on the final day, Lubie?
I mean, I guess uber religious go to services and then do a break fast, as we say, like you break Passover. My family used to always go to an Italian restaurant because that covered all the bases.
Pasta. TJ's,
No, pasta, breaded meat, and rolls. This year, I don't know. I'll probably break it at Easter, to be brutally honest. We'll be with her family for Easter, and they do like a whole brunch. So I'll probably with pancakes and French toast, the whole 9.
How many days in the Passover do you get tired of eating matzah?
Oh God, the first day. I don't eat matzah. I eat a lot of protein, a lot of potatoes. That's usually I don't eat hot dogs all year. I'll eat a crap load of hot dogs.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because they're just easy to make. So I'll throw hot dogs in there. I mean, again, I'm not perfect with it. I don't really do it how Uber Jews do it, but I do it, in passing, just to pay homage to the tradition.
There was a weird onion-flavored matzah that was very strongly infused with onion flavoring, which was about as artificial as it got. And I used to like it at one point in time, but then eventually it just starts to gross you out as it eats away at your inner organs. All right, well, good. I'm glad you observed that all the way through, Libby. Looking forward to Sunday, a little family day, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And, of course, looking forward to tonight, where the people have spoken, Mike Lubie Lubitz. The people are speaking. They're in the process of speaking right now about these 2 play-in games that will decide the ultimate lineup for the Eastern and Western Conference playoffs. Still a position to be decided in each conference, as you have the Miami Heat. Your Miami Heat. Overwhelmingly, Lubie, impressive. Incredible against the Chicago Bulls. All of a sudden, it's as if it almost matched your magic wand theory from many years ago, which I used to ride you about, except you happen to be correct as they went all the way to the NBA Finals while I was mocking you and speaking in very disparaging terms about the overall merit of your opinion, as if you could just wave a magic wand over a team that was floundering all season long. They're floundering.
All season. It was
and then like Zorro, man, you just carve a Z right there in their pants, and boom, all of a sudden they're playing great basketball. Is that what happened, or are we making a very premature evaluation based on one game? Because the odds have swung dramatically. I don't know how dramatic a 1.5 point swing is. It's actually 2.5 points. The Heat originally installed as 1.5 point underdogs in this game. The Hawks were favored by 1.5. We tried to kind of go over that yesterday. You're not sure exactly what the usual accordance of points is for the home team in terms of favoritism. You're thinking 2 or 3, no?
Yes, at least, yeah.
What's more important, home field advantage in football or home court advantage in the NBA? Well, you play a lot of games in the NBA. The deciding factors, I don't know, how heavily influenced are they by the crowd? You certainly see officiating influenced by having the home court edge, whether it's obvious or not. It's a natural tendency. Everybody's yelling and screaming. You're a referee, you're a human being, and you're probably going to make a few favorable calls for the home team. I don't know. Is there a study? There has to be a statistic about fouls that are called home team versus visiting team in the NBA. I would imagine, I'm just guessing at this, Libby, grasping at straws,
Nah.
that the home team usually has an advantage in terms of going to the strike. Is that fair to say, or is that just dreaming?
No, the refs are human. I mean, again, you get swept up in emotion. You'll see that with umpires in baseball when they do a strikeout call and they know it's going to be a big one. And they're like, and they put their whole body behind it. They do like a whole jig. Like, they don't do that on the road usually. like they're humans and they can be swayed. And look, it happened this weekend at my nephew's baseball game. Like, working the refs is something that really good coaches do, and people usually think it's to their detriment. They don't realize, no, like, they're really good. Even if you get a tech, they're really good coaches. And Riley and Phil Jackson used to do it in the media. Even, like, the idea isn't now, like, you're not working it for now. Like, you're not even working maybe for this game, especially in a series. You're working it to plant the seed in their mind, and it works. Like, you'll see the refs start to either pull off or do more. Again, they're human beings, and it happened at my net. These coaches at a Little League game were working the whole game, and I noticed it early because my nephew's coaches just coach. They don't worry about any of that, and it's something I've never been able to do. I get too passionate where if I talk to the ref, it's yelling. But like in between every half inning, they're going over, and they're teenagers. Like, they're going over on the field and talking for like 10 to 15 minutes to the umpires in the game. I'm like, but look, it happens. And it's the same thing with crowds. Like, if a crowd's cheering or jeering, like, you can see it. And I'm sure there's statistics that prove it out.
I would think. I mean, look, just from observing sports for the 73 plus years I've been alive, you would have to say that the majority of times you're rarely seeing the home team getting screwed on a late call. It happens, but rarely does it happen. So anyway, that being said, the Hawks had a pathetic effort against the Orlando Magic. I mean, if you're just looking at recent trends and tendencies, the Hawks look god-awful in their game against the Orlando Magic. They looked like they were dismissive and disinterested in even winning that game because, I don't know, maybe because they knew they had another one. They were on the road.
Yep.
Maybe they didn't fear playing either the Heat or Chicago. The Heat, I don't have the season series results in front of me, but Heat and the Hawks, I would think, would be relatively competitive teams. Started out 1.5. You were getting 1.5 if you bet the Miami Heat. Now you are laying a point, Lubie, laying a point. So a 2.5 point swing in the betting line on that ball game, just based on what we saw in the last games that each team played, respectively. You would have to say the Heat would annihilate the Atlanta Hawks. So maybe we'll see one of these rare reversals of form. It does happen. You're on the road for a second game in a row. If you're the Miami Heat, you're home. If you're the Hawks, you have a chance to make amends for a pathetic effort against an Orlando team that had more than a share of ups and downs this year. And when Orlando was on, they were a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they weren't on all the time. They had a lot of injuries to deal with. Banchero was out for a substantial portion of the season early on, almost. Wasn't he out for most of the first half of the year?
Yes.
Comes back firing. This Franz Christian Wagner, or whatever his name is, he turned out to be a dynamic player. And so losing to Orlando, no disgrace necessarily, but in the fashion in which they lost, you would have to say it came under the heading of such ugliness, and Miami looked great. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know what your feeling is, and to all of the fans are saying, what's the difference? We're just going to lose anyway to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't know. I always want to be in there with a shot, don't you, Lubie?
Well, look, again, now they don't have Jimmy Butler, Mr. 38 points, but 2 years ago, remember it was a very similar situation reversed where they faced the Hawks, a team that they don't play the Hawks well. Trae Young has some is like shooting under 40% for the Heat. Like, Trae Young, I think it's his second worst shooting percentage against any team in the league. So the Heat played Trae Young well. Remember, So they won. They were playing the Hawks 2 years ago, and then they lost as a 7th seed. And at that time, I think they were the first 7th seed to lose, and it was like, of course they are. So you're like, I remember coming on here going, I just want the season to end. Like, it was a disastrous season. It was just a mess. They had a Butler. That was the year they started missing a lot of games. So it was like, let's just have this year end. They go and they take the Bulls down to the wire. They beat the Bulls. They just get past the Bulls. And then they go on this magical run where they beat the crap out of the Bucks.
You never know.
They get past the Knicks and they get past the Celtics, find their way into the NBA Finals. So, like, with this organization especially, I stopped thinking that way a long time. Look, the way Tyler Hero can get hot, Bam is one of the better two-way players in the league. Wiggins is a guy that was second best player on the team that won a title a couple years ago, like 3 years ago, I guess. I wouldn't put it. They're not going to beat the Cavs, but they can bloody them up. They can push them around. Like,
hey, you always want to be in there with a chance. I don't care. I've said this many times. I don't care if I'm down 10-0 in a game of 1-on-1 to 11. I'm thinking, all right, let me get the ball back here. I'll shoot 4 jumpers from the top of the key instead of inbounding or even making a move. Hopefully hit those. Maybe get on a run of 4 or 5 baskets. Stop the guy one time, and then you're right back in the ballgame. You should never throw in the towel. I mean, sometimes, obviously, the mathematical permutations make it impossible. If you're looking at being down 20 with 32 seconds to go, you're looking at an insurmountable lead. But never do I want to see a team count itself out. Any team that I root for or have any kind of rooting interest in, whether it's monetarily or just emotionally, or they happen to be geographically the team you root for, whatever it is, I always want to be in there with a shot. So let's see if the Heat can pull it off. A lot of people are thinking they're going to do it tonight against the Atlanta Hawks, as the line reflects. And then on the other side of it, you have the Dallas Mavericks, an interesting story. I mean, a team that was ensconced, immersed in turmoil this year. And that will, I mean, is that going to be a label that they have to deal with for the rest, or at least the next 15 years? As I don't know how long Luka Doncic's going to be in the league. He'll probably eat himself right out of the league in 5 years.
It'll be there at least 5. I was just going to say at least 5 years they're going to deal with it.
When he's 320 pounds and they call him Luka the Load, the guy, he's one of those guys that's a good enough basketball player. You used to see this sometimes, right? You look at the guy and he's got the perfectly defined body. He appears to be the prototype. How many times have we seen this with quarterbacks, Lubie? Well, when you're looking at, and we'll get into the draft a little bit here today, too, because it's always interesting to me to see the speculation. As I'm looking at the crop of quarterbacks and thinking, is there any one of them that's really going to be a standout in the pros? Cal Moore's going to be the number 1 pick. It seems to be a consensus. But and I don't know, is he Andrew Luck? Is he any cinch?
To me, he's the end of the first round, second round quarterback. But the combination of there's no quarterbacks in this draft, and it's still that era where you are able to like shake off a crappy quarterback pick within 2 to 3 years. Like, it's not the Sam Bradford where it's 60 million guaranteed. Yes, the money's worked its way up where first top 10 quarterback picks do get paid a lot of money, but it's not like
it doesn't break you.
You look, Daniel Jones got a second contract and they got rid of him the next year. Like, they found ways to get rid of bad quarterback picks. So, like, teams will look. A few years ago, the Cardinals drafted Rosen 10 and then Murray the next year at 1. Like, you can draft a guy in the top 10 and just throw it away. It seems like. So Ward is the best of the group. I mean, he has a lot of upside and he has a lot of question marks to me. And in any other draft, last year's draft, I would have put him as the 5th or 6th guy, but in this draft, he's number 1 by a lot. It's not even close.
Yes, and there's big question marks. It's Matthew Lesko time, the guy with the question marks on the jacket. I happened to look him up the other day. Those jackets were sharper than I thought. I thought they were more like clown jackets, like the kind of jacket you would see on a wrestling manager. But they were actually fairly stylish, the Matthew Lesko question mark jackets. At least he had a few of them that were. But question marks always surrounding quarterbacks in any draft or any player for that matter. So we'll get into that. But just getting back to this Dallas game, Dallas Mavericks, they have to loom as being somewhat dangerous. They're getting 6 points against the Grizzlies. And, I mean, do we not need some kind of inside medical information on this one? This would all be contingent, I would imagine, your wager. I'd be tempted to take the 6 points anyway, which may loom as a very large mistake. But if Jean Morant doesn't play, how I mean, those 6 points look monumental. They look like 60, don't they?
Andy Man yesterday brought up that at the end of the game, and I went
He
to
hurt
bed.
his ankle. He's a game time decision.
Supposedly hurt his ankle. I didn't realize it was to the point where he may not play at all. Like, oh God, that's a big.
What juice do they jack him up with? I mean, is that ankle going to be laced with cortisone by the time we get there? And can you really do that? If a guy's got bad, close to a fracture, do you want to do something like that? Is it like juicing a horse at Beulah Park?
Oh no!
That it goes out there for a $2,500 claiming race, and you're thinking, well, you know what? She's going to the farm anyway. Go ahead, let's get one more run out of this pig. No. John Morant you were talking about here. Now, if they don't have John Morant with the Memphis Grizzlies and they are at home, are the Dallas Mavericks not capable of being within 6?
Oh no, they'll win. I mean, again, we know. I get it. A couple years ago, when Morant would be out of the lineup, was with suspensions, and they ended up playing. Their record was
well at one period. Yes,
was better without him than with him. Again, remember that was a different team. They had Dylan Brooks, and Dylan Brooks was a guy that, as much as he was a pain in the ass, he was actually a good basketball player.
He was like the Money Mayweather of basketball.
He was annoying, but he actually was good too, and he was really good defensively. And he could take over offensively if they need. Like, they don't have that now. Like, if Ja Morant's not there, again, they're flirting with the play-in this time around. They were like a 2 seed then. Like, without Ja Morant, I not only think the Mavs cover, I think the Mavs win, and the Mavs may win decidedly. Again, you have Anthony Davis. Klay Thompson woke up the other day. Like, that second half, he looked like Klay freaking Thompson. I think the Grizzlies win if Ja's there, but if Ja's not there, that could be rough. That could be really rough.
All right, so you get the honor, whoever survives that game gets to go against Oklahoma City, which appears to be the invincible, immovable object so far in the Western Conference playoffs. A big gap. I mean, with Cleveland, here you have a situation where Cleveland was brilliant all year long. Their coach, Kenny Atkinson, is going to ace out my guy, although I don't even think J.B. Bickerstaff's going to finish second in the Coach of the Year voting. Atkinson certainly has done a marvelous job, and it was pointed out by Scoop Skolnick on the show this week, the great Ethan Scoop Skolnick, that when your team shows, a 20-game improvement, essentially with the same roster, would you not have to consider that perhaps it was a good move to get rid of Bickerstaff, who now is my candidate for Coach of the Year, only because of the 9-1 odds? And the fact, I think it's remarkable, when you can take a team that is an absolute dog meat. If a guy came in to manage the Chicago White Sox this year and had them as a 500 club, would that? I don't care who wins the title, what kind of runaway it would be for the Yankees. Would you not have to consider that the guy that brought a garbage team to 500 should have been the manager of the year? Again, go ahead.
Pat Riley and Spo have both talked about it. Their best coaching seasons were not the years they won titles.
Yeah,
like that. That Anthony.
You think Pat Riley was just being gratuitous to me because I kept bringing it up to him about the 50-win season?
No, that Anthony Mason team was fucking gross. Part of my French Jesus.
Yeah, sorry.
That Anthony Mason team was bad. Like, Anthony Mason, if you had watched him his whole career and you watched him that season, you thought they did like an alien transfer of the body. Like, people who watched him in New York, mean, that wasn't an aberration. Like, that's who Anthony Mason was. That season became like their number one scorer. They get the ball. They were running the offense. Like, Anthony Mason, God rest his soul. Like, that team, you lose Zoe. Like, they were supposed to be a championship contender, and that was maybe the most complete team they had to that point. And then, like, right before the season, Zoe has the freaking kidney thing, and now you have Brian Grant playing the 5, and he was really a 4. And he was
he was not the same player he was with the Blazers when they fell in love with him, which a lot of people did.
Well, he was supposed to, because he was supposed to be like your 3rd or 4th guy. He ended up becoming your big. Then Anthony Mason now has to play like the 4 when he's really a 3, and he's really an undersized 3 that likes to play big. Like, it was a ridiculous lineup, and they somehow were like, weren't they like a 3 seed, or like it was like?
I mean, it looked like a team of scrubs. It really did. Rejects and scrubs.
Miraculous. I'm sorry. Like, I remember watching that year going, wait, this team has 50 wins?
That's a great coaching job. It really was. Now, and the many interviews I've done with Pat Riley over the years, although much, well, I mean, we haven't had Riley. Has he done any radio or streaming interviews in a long time? I don't think so. He sent us that one video on our 10-year radio anniversary there at 940, which was, about 6-7 years ago. That was very nice for him to do that. But outside of that, you don't see a lot of Riley occasional press conference. It was a frequent contributor. In fact, he was a lot like Jimmy Johnson in the sense you didn't even know there was a possibility, Lubie, that you would be on a show and Riley might impromptu call in.
Oh, wow.
Not as much. No, Jimmy was more like that. Jimmy would pick up the phone, Jimmy Johnson, on his way to the office there from Isla Morada or wherever he was coming from, and say, "Hey, you guys have this dead wrong. I'm telling you, we're locked in with Jalen Ramsey." And then the next day, he would be traded. So,
Yeah.
as was the case here with the Miami Dolphin developments that have flown under the radar here, is we've been zeroed in on a bunch of other stuff. All right, so you're saying Miami Heat tonight. You're saying Dallas Mavericks with no Ja.
Yeah.
And Memphis if Morant plays. So there you have it, as Gordon Soley would say. Our handicapping, Mike Lubie's handicapping of the NBA play-in games, and you would assume both teams are dead once they get to the next round, but you still want to be in there with a shot. And as we've seen, I mean, you never know. Could there have been? There never has been a more of a yellow brick road paved for a team to win a championship than there was last year for the Boston Celtics, taking nothing away from them winning the championship. Go out to it. I can already hear the people from Beantown. They're spitting up their chowder as they, hey, who is this clown? Not diminishing what they did at all. And it helped my friend cash a $90,000 parlay ticket when they won the championship. But that being said, you would have to at least concede that when the star player from the other team is out in every series and you still lose games.
Yes, yeah, they didn't sweep through. It wasn't like the Lakers that year where they had one loss.
You were very fortunate to have things shake out, and you need a little bit of luck. Let's face it, you need luck, my friend, in anything that you're doing. You can be as talented, you can be as gifted, you can be as superior, you can be as dedicated, you can be as hardworking. I guess that's one and the same, but nonetheless, I mean, I was running out of adjectives there to describe what it is that you could be and still in need of a certain amount of luck, Lubie, to come out on top. And the Celtics had the benefit of all of that. You could not have had more good fortune carved out for you than they did last year. That doesn't even diminish their chances of winning it again this year, which most people feel this is headed for. We know the NBA is a chalk league. It is milk of Magnesia City, my friend. You were just gargling with this stuff. It's like you almost wish it was Pepto-Bismol, so it had a little bit of a mint flavor to it. Otherwise, it's just complete gagging chalk. But the NBA tends to be a chalk league. It wasn't last year as Dallas made their way into the NBA final. And what I like about this year's playoffs, you do have a couple of series there that would ignite a little bit of a spark in terms of interest right away. If you were following this on a nationwide, unbiased, non-geographically based opinion perspective. Look, I mean, Denver and the Clippers is a hell of a series on the surface, is it not? Denver and the Clippers playing great basketball. You didn't hear a lot about them. You don't see much of Billy Crystal anymore. Is he still performing? I don't even know. Is he relevant?
Yeah, I think he's on Broadway or something. I think he's still doing
new stars in the crowd there. Does he even attend Clippers games, or is Steve Ballmer just scared everybody off because he's a maniac? I kind of dig it that Steve Ballmer. I mean, he's a little over the top, isn't he? People were critical. I have a friend that did a show with me, and he thought that Rory McIlroy's celebration post winning the Masters behavior in the immediate aftermath of sinking that putt was, maybe not of the most sincere variety. That it was a bit too much. I don't take anything away from that guy. I mean, it means a lot to him. I mean, look what a load that was. You talk about the proverbial monkey off your back. I'm not sure if that's a politically correct way to put it, but talk about this giant cement block that this guy was carrying around mentally. I mean, 10 years without winning a major, never won the Masters. He's been there knocking on the door. He's having a great season. He's right there. And then he pushes a putt. I guess he pulled it, past the hole there on 18 to win in regulation. And is in a situation where you're going to be labeled as the biggest choker since, as we talked about in golf anyway, since John Vandevelde. I don't know. The Vandevelde meltdown still was the one that I think will always be referenced. No? Can you think of a bigger meltdown on a golf course? Even you're familiar with one, and you're not a golf fan to the sense or the degree level that you're following all these golf tournaments. But I think you have some interest, Lubie, there in the majors. And if you do, you can still see Vandevelde, the Frenchman, who nobody knew, a non-distinguished Frenchman. He was the prototypical nondescript European schmink that we look for to win these majors sometimes. It used to be Usti, as the professor referenced in an opening clip. And you'd say, we scored with bizarre, nondescript European schminks like Martin Keimer. winning a U.S. Open. Every now and then you can kind of sense one of these things where a guy's coming on, former number one in the world. But Van de Velde was a nobody. No, what French golfers have accomplished anything of enough distinction for you to know who the hell they are?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Jean-Paul Sartre on the tee. It's like they don't do anything. They drink wine and they philosophize. That's it.
Well, look, and not to cast aspersions against the gentleman that you
Eduardo Carpentier was a great French athlete.
wrestler. But like,
sure was he from like Brazil or something?
No idea.
I think he was a flying. No, he was known as a flying Frenchman.
Frenchman.
All right.
Like Rory's actually more of a reserved dude. I don't see him wanting to show emotion like that. So to show that emotion, I don't know how. I understand in this world we have to question everything, but like, how are you questioning that response?
Yeah.
He was literally crying tears of like exhaustion and
he was shaking.
Joy / relief. Like I mean, look, it's like questioning the Michael Jordan. There you go. The Michael Jordan thing. Like, and I hated Michael Jordan, but like when he's holding the thing and he's on the court and they always show those clips, like,
yeah.
Sometimes people forget that they're in front of millions of people and they actually allow themselves to have real emotion. I think it's weird to judge that like that. I mean, okay. Like,
yeah, I don't know. The Jordan one, LeBron with the Cleveland thing, that was a little bizarre.
I thought it was lame because it's like, dude, please. But I'm sure he in his mind meant it. Like, McElroy's literally on the ground, like losing his mind. The guy doesn't. He's a Brit. He's a Brit, right? Like
Irish.
They don't. I mean, the UK, call it whatever you want. They are super reserved. Like, I know he's Irish, so they're emotional, but they're usually not crying. Like, that's something dudes from that area don't want people to see their softer side. Irish? Like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't know. I didn't go there at all. I was with this gentleman and his who handled it better than I was handling it for him because I didn't have $1 on it. Like, that's where my brain was. But I definitely wasn't like, oh, that fake Rory McIlroy.
I didn't see that at all. I'm with you on that.
Like, I don't even know.
The guy's been a pretty, I mean, he's amenable to all of these crazy interviews. He answers every question. He usually does it with a smile on his face. He seems like a pretty good guy. Had that little business there where he's supposedly filing for divorce there as he was connected with the lovely Amanda Balionis, who, is a real talent there on the CBS. Does a great job on the golf. I don't know. She's not really one that's fawning all over these golfers. It's not a Susie Colbert draft day thing when she does these interviews. But could you see where maybe there was a little something going on there with Rory McIlroy, Lubie? Did you ever watch the dynamic of these interviews that she was having? And McIlroy be on her. Now, it wasn't like she wasn't, gracious and very positive in her responses to the questions. And there wasn't. Look, usually you're interviewing somebody in celebration. She did have to do the loser locker room thing, which I always hate. Did you do a lot of losing locker room coverage in your career here?
I did a couple of times. It's
always sucked going in there after a team and just lost Game 7 of the World Series.
It's very depressing.
What'd you think about the call at second base? You know what? We're going to bring on a professor here. But anyway, yeah, some good stuff. I like a couple of these NBA series, Professor. I don't know. Do you get into when college basketball is done? Do you transition a little bit into NBA interest or not at all?
I mean, I try to. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it's like last year where the Celtics got like a free pass to the finals because everybody they played was injured the entire postseason. But yeah, I mean, I try to. It's usually the next event. I don't get into it nearly as much as I do with college football or college basketball, but it's better than watching Major League Baseball.
Now, will you step out and make a few wagers on NBA games and/or series?
If I see a matchup I like, not a series, but game to game. If I see a matchup I like, I will dabble. I would say I don't think I certainly don't go whole hog. But I want to thank you for, that Burial Monday, followed by.
It was more.
I signed out today, and you're
Monday.
About.
You were so close to.
I signed out today, and you're talking about Oosthuizen's loss, which was the one that really was painful.
Oh no!
Back in 2021.
Yeah.
Whereas that one, I thought we were in at like 80-1.
It's funny. You're like a great golf handicapper in reality.
It really is.
Only to have Fatso
really
Spanish steal it away. I don't really think I mean, look, I don't claim to be a golf handicapper at all,
But you come up
and
with
I don't get
games,
involved in like any tournament other than the majors.
yeah.
In fact, like I was at the Pebble Beach earlier in the year. You and PC were like bombing me out that week. Oh, did you play the golf? Did you bet the golf? It's like no, like if there was football going on. Why the hell would I do that?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, the
but
enormous price. I mean, look,
I
you're not
don't
a
think
horse
it's
player.
I don't
You
think
would
it's
have to bet the
difficult.
Derby.
It's always the same, 8 or 10 dudes, hanging around, and you got to pick a couple, 3 or 4, and hope that they actually finish. Again, I didn't even take Sunday that hard
Yeah, that's
because there was not a single point in that tournament where I thought Rose was going to actually win. I was talking about it with Andy Man last night, and I was like, he was like, yeah, but what after Rose tied it at 10 under? There's a 3-way tie at 10 under. I was like, well, for a second, I actually thought Oberg was going to come back and win.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was the storyline. He's the new rising kid who's obviously going to win some majors at some point, and probably pretty soon, probably in the next year or two, you get to see him. He reminds me of Koepka. I don't know if you remember, but Koepka had that run up right before he started winning them all the time, where he kept finishing in the top 5 over and over again. You're like, oh, here's this young kid who's gonna, eventually win some, and then he broke through and won like 2 in a year. Oberg certainly sort of reminds me of that rise. But right after Rose tied it at 10, or there was a 3-way tie at 10, Rory hit that shot on 15 where he did, like 230 yards, and he hooked it around the trees and got the ball to stop dead on the green, like 6 feet for an eagle putt.
Right.
And he missed the putt. But I was sitting there thinking, I was talking with PC about it. I was like, okay, if he had made that putt, that would have gone right with Bubba Watson and Sergio Garcia as like the greatest shot in the history of the Masters. And then he blew it on 18, but I knew they were going to turn around and play 18 right over again. And if you had watched it, yes, he blew the putt, but like every approach shot he hit was landing at like 6 feet. This is like the guy who's throwing darts. So
Yeah.
again, at no point did I actually think Rose was going to win. So
I
that one
was,
didn't.
I was
That
hoping for it.
one wasn't. I was hoping, but that one
Yeah.
wasn't that painful. But Oosthuizen back in 21, when Rahm hit like that 22-foot putt to go up 1 with 1 to play, that one was painful, because that was the shot that Fatso McSpanish never ever makes. Like the guy, as great as he was, never made a clutch putt in his whole life, except maybe at the Kitty Land at McDonald's, like but he drained that one when you had Usti, and that one was painful. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie.
Well,
Much
it's,
more so.
look, the small margins there make the difference, and you hate to see somebody that's got a bet on anything at 120 to 1. I mean, you lose by a nose with a 100 to 1 shot.
But you hate it for
Tough
Rose
beat.
too,
I
right?
mean, it
Because
just is.
I haven't actually seen this Rory was faking it stuff, but
I don't think you could fake that, can you?
I don't think you can fake it. But like the whole narrative around Rory is kind of ridiculous. Let's be honest. I
It's like a
mean,
fairy tale leprechaun, the way
like,
they treat him.
they
Like
want him
on a
to
Lucky
be
Charms box.
They want him to be Tiger so badly,
yeah.
and he's just not Tiger. I mean, and in his own right, he's an excellent golfer, but let's be honest, in a lot of ways, he's much more comparable to Phil than he is Tiger, including the fact that let's call it the way it is. He kind of seems like he might secretly be a scumbag, but just kind of keeps it under wraps. Because like the whole narrative with Rory, every tournament is like, oh, there's his family and there's his little baby and his wife. But it turns out, he's nailing the Golf Channel girl. So,
I mean, that looked like it was one I would have to think had some substance to it. That's for sure.
Right. But they always talk about his family and like, oh, his dad worked 3 jobs so Rory could.
I like that his dad was a degenerate and bet him to win the British Open when he was like 6
I
years
like
old.
that part of the story too, but I don't like the part with like, oh, his mom cleaned clothes and his dad worked 3 jobs to pay off his golf. I was like, yeah, but he won his first major when he was like 18. It wasn't like they struggled forever. It was like he hit the tour and he started winning from day one. So like, okay, I'm not all credit to his parents for his development as a kid, but it paid off pretty early. Like they hit a a winning lottery ticket right out of the freaking box.
It wasn't like they were, schwitzing in some Kathy.
Right. It's not like, he
Yeah,
struggled
wow.
on the tour till he was 40
Yeah.
and then he broke through and like, oh, now I can pay. Now you can retire, mom and dad. Now mom and dad haven't had to work since they were like 38 years old. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not quite the fairy tale they want to make it out to be. I mean,
They're drinking,
again, credit to his parents who are working class people and work their ass off for their son to get where he is. But he got where he is like really, really early.
A long time
Like,
ago.
yeah, like they got to retire like really, really young.
I'm sure they were richly rewarded for their faith in Rory McIlroy and their support of him as a kid. All right, we're going to come back. We have the big board, some Australian rules football. You crushed it last week, Professor. Is that correct?
I did, and
Yeah.
I crushed it again yesterday as Collingwood beat the holy hell out of Brisbane in a matchup of the 1 and 2 team to take to the top of the table. So once again this year, the Magpies doing us right.
Got to be
I'm
all
a
over
big
those
fan.
pies. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how heavy is the action overall worldwide on Australian rules football.
I mean, outside of Australia, I assume it's me.
0.0.
I don't know. I have no idea.
When you call, I mean, well, you're just on an app, so you don't actually speak.
Yeah. He's not calling a bookie.
Oh no, I
Hey
call
Lou, can you get me down on the Magpies?
Oh yeah, I actually call him like, "G'day, Lou."
Calling a dude in Australia.
G'day, mate.
You're like having a Foster's and watching the game.
Guys out throwing.
Come on
a boomerang, all
over.
these
I'll
fucking bets.
put a shrimp
Nice.
on the barbie for you. I mean, again, I'm limited. The fact that all I know about Australia is taken from Crocodile Dundee movies that are
Yeah.
25 years old at this point. So
Yeah. All right, we're going to come back with the professor and a big board and some Australian rules winning football picks in a moment. Now that
The time.
it's 8:38.
Play the ponies in style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
but we have the best and mostly the worst of the Masters Champions dinner.
All right.
The most boring dinner you could possibly imagine, served by the most boring man you can possibly imagine. This is Scotty Scheffler's list from 3 years ago, which featured, among other things, tortilla soup and firecracker shrimp, which of course are just bang bang shrimp, and Scotty style cheeseburger sliders. So you go to Augusta, you're the champion. You can bring in chefs from around the planet. The richest people in the world, richest, most powerful people in the world are sponsoring your dinner. And what do? You order off the TGI Fridays appetizer menu. Why did
say it's like a happy hour on Friday?
Why did you just take everybody to TGI freaking Fridays for all you could eat appetizers? Because that was your menu.
Probably one down the street.
Off. You can have any dessert in the world. You can have tiramisu. You can have creme brulee. You can have baklava. You can have bananas pie. You can have baked Alaska. You can have crepe Suzettes. What does Scotty Scheffler a giant cookie served with vanilla ice cream.
Like my
Not
nephew.
exactly bananas Foster. Yeah.
A
My 7-year-old nephew.
warm chocolate chip skillet cookie served with vanilla ice cream. Any dessert in the world, what do you want? You want freaking Mrs. Fields. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Were there many walkouts
Scheffler,
on this?
Scotty Scheffler is a robot designed to bore humanity to death.
Yes.
Just the worst person in the world. He really is.
The best way to kick off your day is with Defo plus Lubie. We now return to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show, a Degenerate Friday edition. We want to degenerate maybe to the bottom. I mean, if you were looking at being in that Jamaica OTB parlor and looking around the room.
How is this the bottom? The
Well, you're
bottom
winning. It
is
doesn't matter.
Major
I mean,
League Baseball.
Oh,
Like, there's no
Oh, yeah,
question.
Korean baseball was.
No,
But
not
that was out of
Korean baseball.
desperation.
Major League Baseball is the most
MLB.
unwatchable. Look, the baseball fans out there, I sort of apologize, but not really.
Yeah.
But like, I know I am biased because we have the Florida Marlins. But like, this is the most unwatchable thing in all of the world of sports at this point. It is so boring. Like, it's like home run derby. Only everybody strikes out.
Yeah.
90% of the time. There's nothing more unwatchable than Major League Baseball at this point.
Guy goes 1 for 5, 4 strikeouts, and he's a hero. It's
And a solo home run. Right.
Yeah.
While the other team
Solo
uses
homer.
9 pitchers. Like, like when we're out and about, if I see baseball on the screen, I like try to get into it. I like try to watch it. Like, oh God, it's another strikeout. It's so painful at this point. I really, and you know, I watched Moneyball. I admired the story, but like the whole sabermetrics revolution has just made the sport so unwatchable at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody. Forgetting the fact that the Marlins are just a joke of a franchise, and that there's a couple others out there, particularly this season, that are somehow even worse. I mean,
PC's White Sox can't be.
I feel bad for White Sox fans. Like, I mean, these are people with that proud tradition, but good Lord, is this unwatchable? Just total dreck at this point.
All right, so in the middle of the night, you find Australian rules football, and then you find that you had a penchant for being able to pick winners there.
You know what I may also have found is a new passion for the NBA playoff games, not because it's particularly good basketball, but particularly unwatchable basketball. But, I don't know if you saw this clip that's making the round on social media, but the best thing that came out of the first round of the playoff games was there's some woman with gigantic breasts sitting right behind the Orlando Magic bench during that game between them and the Atlanta Hawks, clearly shaking out an 8-ball of cocaine in a plastic baggie right behind the Magic bench while the camera is trying to focus on. And Lubie's like, how did anybody even notice this? And I'm like, I'm 90% sure they were looking at her boobs and just noticed. What is she doing with her hand? Oh my God, she's lining up an 8-ball.
Is that a rock? Exactly.
It's classic.
All right, let's get to the picks on Australian rules football, and then we'll feature the big boys.
And I came to a realization the other night in terms of handicapping Defo, and that, not surprising given that it's you and me, but we have made things so much more complicated than they need to be when we have the easiest system of all time, which is that whenever Lubie is passionate about something,
yes,
bet the other way.
Yeah.
The other one, gigantic. I don't know what the over-under in terms of the player prop for Jimmy Butler was the other night. Like the middle of the second quarter. Like, he's on air here. He's shot. He's dead. I don't think he'll have points.
Wiggins is better.
What does Jimmy Butler go out and do? He goes out and drops 38 in the first game.
Lubie didn't want to come to work the next day.
I honestly
texted me that he wasn't feeling well the night before.
I don't know what any of the, and it wasn't like it was a bad thing. It was like 38 with like 8 and 8. I mean, like, like it was like
he eclipsed Steph Curry's.
It was like so Jimmy Butler, or Himmy. Playoff Jimmy, whatever you want to call him. It was like such a classic Jimmy Butler game. Like I'm guessing he like doubled every player prop involved. And it occurred to me that, like, whenever Lubie is, like, super into one of his takes, and that's not to say Lubie doesn't know sports. Obviously, Lubie does know sports. But, like, the
I don't know,
universe
really
blows
passionate.
up in his face when he
Yep.
gets, like, super heated on something
Yep.
every time. So that's all we really have to do is
Yeah.
wait for a moment where Lubie's really into it and then just hammer the other side over and over and
I
over.
think I saw the casino manager at the Bellagio, which took a lot of Jimmy Butler prop action, face down in the fountains.
Well, right, no, seriously. We all know this person when it comes to any form, but, like, particularly the casino, like, you know the guy who's like a $25 player, and then
Yeah,
all of a sudden he'll throw like 300 on a hand, and you know he's getting 16 and the dealer's getting blackjack every time.
exactly. Yeah,
He's super. He's like, he's got the feeling. I'm really into this one.
he's splitting
Like,
aces. Exactly.
like I was sitting there watching because I took Memphis. And I was sitting there watching that, and I was like, "Oh God, Lubie's gonna kill me because Jimmy Butler's." I mean, the first half I was like, "Oh, is he gonna have 50?" Like,
Yeah, no, that's a surefire way. All right,
yeah,
let's
because
get to
Lubie's
it.
like, "It's all Steph. It's all Steph." Yeah.
I was very wrong.
Australian rules football selections for this upcoming weekend. I don't even know when they play the games. I guess they're tonight, right?
Tonight we got one at 11 o'clock. I think it's the play of the weekend, and that is Fremantle playing against Melbourne. Melbourne sitting in 0-5. Fremantle. It's a fairly big number, 16.5. But Melbourne, who I believe we faded last week on the show. I'm looking. Oh yeah, against Essendon. Who, again, I believe that number was 1.5. Melbourne lost by 40. Unlike Essendon, wasn't playing well into this one. Fremantle's actually playing pretty well this year. 16.5, it's a big number, but again, Melbourne seems to be completely offensively incompetent, scoring in the 50s and 60s just about every game. Couple of games, not even that. We mentioned last week the one that tipped us off was the fact that they gave up 125 and got clobbered by the Roos who got killed earlier this morning, by the way. Yeah, Fremantle, big number. 11:20, I believe, our time tonight kicks off. 16.5. We are all over Fremantle in this spot. So our Aussie pick of the week, oi, 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 is Fremantle minus the 16.5 over Melbourne.
All right, let's hope we can score with that. Now we get.
And we're going also with that.
Yeah. Oh, you got another.
We got the UFL playing tonight.
How'd you do on that play last week?
We won. We
Okay.
were getting 4. We were laying 1. We lost by 1 in terms of the real score, but we were getting 4, and we were winning the whole way. Birmingham scored the winning touchdown with I think maybe 2 seconds left. We actually needed them to get the extra point there, so we didn't go into overtime. We're in a situation where we couldn't lose, given that we couldn't lose given the overtime rules where we can only lose by 2 max. In the overtime, but we managed to win in regulation. So not bad for us once again in the UFL. But tonight there is a game, which is Michigan and Memphis. Michigan laying 7.5 here. If you've watched the UFL, I wouldn't lay 7.5 with anybody because nobody's got any offense.
Right.
It is the typical minor league football team. Quarterback play is at best shaky. Offensive line play is always bad. So teams struggle in the red zone and they struggle to execute. So if I can get 7.5 in that situation with, take St. Thomas Aquinas and throw them in there and give me 7.5, and I will absolutely take it. So give me Memphis plus a 7 and a hook in the UFL tonight.
How barren are the stands when they pan the crowd?
Oh God,
That's depressing.
Oh, it's like
more people. What was that league we were doing there?
Honestly, I think that's why The Rock founded the tequila company, is because he's looking at the stands at these games and decided he needs to get drunk to deal with. He's like, what did I invest in? I think he only gave Vince McMahon like $1 for the rights. So even then, he's like, no, I mean, this is the thing about the UFL. They're not trying to make money off ticket sales. They're making money off of television contracts. So
sure.
That, whoever's in the stand is just like a bonus. Like if you go to the stands, you should just give The Rock $5 because that's this is some extra money for you. Here, Dwayne, have a couple of extra bucks.
You would think it would be an indicator of whether they were stimulating.
For the rest of us, it's like a gift to me. It's like, here's Ken, here's something you can pay attention to instead of Major League Baseball. So I don't hate it.
All right, so we got UFL and Australian rules football picks. We want to get to the big board here.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's fire it up.
Gonna put that. There we go. And not a big sports week.
Yeah.
We had the Masters last weekend, and we'll get into a story or two there. But really, not a lot going on in the world of sports. The aforementioned completely unwatchable dreck that is Major League Baseball, and the play-in games, which is like if any event in NBA history just needed to be got rid of, it's the things they're trying now. The in-season tournament.
Yeah.
And the play-in games. And even if you live in one of the cities where people are involved, outside of maybe San Francisco and the Golden State Warriors, nobody gives a damn about these. So it's the big board of the week in sports when there's no good sports to watch.
All right, let's start it out with number 5.
Let's take it to number 5, which is the Phoenix Suns lose their coach and Defo gains a new hero. For those of you who don't know, this is Mike Budenholzer, who was just hired by the Phoenix Suns and now has been fired by the Phoenix Suns. So for the next 3 years, the Suns have to pay him $40 million, not the coach. Now, when you add that to the $16 million, the Milwaukee Bucks are already paying him, not the coach. All Mike Budenholzer has to do is not coach until 2029, and he will collect $56 million.
That's amazing.
For not working. How is this man not the hero to every person in the United States?
It's my dream.
$56 million to do nothing. I got to say, not only am I jealous, I think I'm better at doing nothing than Mike Budenholzer is.
Well, and you could probably fail as miserably as he did as a coach.
I feel like, honestly, there's very few people in the world who are better at doing nothing than I am. And Mike Budenholzer is absolutely not one of them, because I would have never taken this Phoenix job when I was collecting $16 million for the Bucks. So credit to Mike Budenholzer, who is a hero to the people. Nobody has ever collected more money for not working than Mike Budenholzer. I'm honestly, this guy is so good at doing nothing and getting paid that I'm surprised Elon's not going through his books at this point.
I'm surprised.
I want to talk about frauds. $56 million to not coach.
I'm surprised he's not wearing a neck brace in that picture.
Exactly.
But really, Defo,
it's my dream.
This is your dream. Like, how
it really is.
How do you not have a shrine to Mike Budenholzer up in your house?
Sign a 5-year deal for big money at some radio station or television job and get fired the first day.
Like if Defo ever designs a religion, Mike Budenholzer is going to be the god of that religion.
Nothing like that so-called time on the beach, right? That's number 5. Number 4.
Number 4. This is something that came up. Clay Travis, well-known sports radio host, put out on Twitter that you can't trust people who dye their beards. Now, I don't know if he singularly called out Ryan Day in this, or Ryan Day's wife just assumed he was talking about Ryan Day. But Ryan Day's wife immediately shot back that Ryan Day has never dyed his beard or his hair once. All I'm saying is either she's lying or he's got a bad medical condition, because look at that.
Yes, there's
that guy. How dark is that?
Katie shoe polish he's got on that.
That was actually my question. Is like, when she says doesn't dye, does that mean he just put shoe polish in his beard? Because there's no way that's. I mean, unless he's developed a formula for something that isn't dye to make your beard hair that dark, there's no way she's not lying. Like, again, maybe she's technically not lying because he's rubbing his face with radioactive material or something. And it's not dye. But, I mean, who do you think you're fooling, Mrs. Ryan Day?
Yeah.
Like, who was the reliever for the Giants? Oh, Wilson. Brian Wilson is looking at that and being like, wow, that's a little over the top. That's a little ridiculous. Ronald Reagan is looking at that and like, come on, man. Act your age. Like,
I mean, LeBron, when LeBron had a 5 head, then suddenly his
hair plugs, yes.
Like squeaking down his face.
Mrs. LeBron came out and was like, yeah.
I think even Bill Self is off the hook after looking at this picture.
Wow. I mean, honestly, when J.D. Vance dropped the championship trophy during the ceremony, I assumed it's because the thing was covered in Ryan Day's hair dye.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that one. Either
Like-
she's a liar or there's something else going on.
Right, there's something very, very wrong. If she's not lying, if he doesn't dye his beard, then he needs to go to a doctor because there's something very, very wrong with him.
Yeah.
Like you could be young and virile and have black hair and it not be that.
Right? No,
Yeah.
like again, that's not a color that happens in nature. That's
No, that can only happen by mistake.
Yeah,
Like you left it in for how long?
even the time you do it wrong.
the Crayola people are like, no, that's too dark. We can't simulate that color. And
Charred beyond recognition.
right, yeah, he doesn't die. He just rubs a Sharpie on his face.
Exactly.
All right, that's number 4.
Ron Popeil is looking at that and be like,
Yeah.
oh no, that wasn't my spray in the can stuff. Number 3, and this one's going to be a little controversial on this show, but
Uh-oh.
it was once again released to celebrate the NFL draft. Donald Trump had his height and weight measured, and it turns out he's exactly the same size as DK Metcalf. 6'3", 224 pounds. I mean, really look at it. These two are basically twins. I mean, you see Donald Trump and DK Metcalf, and you're like, yes, those are two guys that are exactly the same size.
Hard to pick them apart. It
And
really
it's
is.
worth noting, at this combine from a couple of years ago when he was measured when he turned himself in Atlanta, not only has Donald Trump lost 10 pounds, very impressive, Mr. President, but he's actually, at his age, managed to grow an inch in the last 2 years. Which I got to say, in terms of his accomplishments, you can say billionaire, you can say president, you can say beautiful. Growing an inch in your 70s has to be the most impressive thing he's ever accomplished. Like, at a time in life where literally everybody else on the planet is shrinking, he manages to grow an inch. So maybe, really, when you think about it, to be his age and be the exact same size as DK Metcalf, maybe he and Ryan Day are sharing the secrets between that beard and his ability to grow and be the same body composition as DK Metcalf.
It's impressive.
I still never forget when I saw that program from my dad's Century Village basketball team when they listed the players at the height they used to be. And never did it come up that a guy was actually taller in his 80s than he was when he was, say, in his 30s and playing ball. All right, that's number 3. A very, very graphic example of two different body types there for sure.
Number 2, and it goes, of course, with Defo and Lubie burying me all Monday and making me relive Justin Rose. And I'm not going to say that wasn't bad, but excuse me there. Number 2 is the worst person you know just had a terrible Sunday at the Masters. Because when you think of douchebag fan bases, whatever the worst person you know in your social group is, he or she is a Bryson DeChambeau fan. And he had a bad day on Sunday. After watching Bryson take the lead after the second hole of the Masters and immediately blow it, can you imagine the clouds of vape smoke that were getting thrown up at every Buffalo Wild Wings in America as Bryson DeChambeau fans withered on their vine, punching away at their DraftKings account, hoping Bryson would make a charge on the back 9 at Augusta on Sunday. Really, when you think about bad people and a bad fan base, there's nobody worse than Bryson DeChambeau. As the best expression on Twitter I read was, for the worst person you know, for the worst 30-year-old you know with a gambling problem, Bryson DeChambeau's Sunday at Augusta was like 9/11. It seems like a perfectly apt description there, because every Bryson DeChambeau fan I've ever met fits this mold exactly.
You have to suck.
Whoever the worst person you manages to glom onto your social group, he or she was very upset watching Bryson choke on the way down on Sunday. But on YouTube, I've seen him make this shot 100 times.
Yeah. No, it was insane to hear how the crowd was responding to him, because he basically seemed like the ugly American when he turned his back on the PGA Tour there and took the Saudi money. But always seems to rise up and be a factor. And yeah, his following
It
would have
does
to
so
be largely
despite the
comprised of
fact,
these
honestly, and I know he's won a couple, and I even had him in one last year when he was at the U.S. Open. He won or the Players, I can't remember. But for a guy who hits the ball 400 yards, has anybody ever been worse on par fives? Like this guy, he
Yeah.
outdrives everybody but 70 yards, but he's always, below average on par fives. I will never understand how you manage to do that combination there. It's bizarre.
Yeah, when you're in the trees behind 15 there at Augusta National, the thing just flies right over the green and into the woods. You're thinking that's not effective execution of the short game. But all right, so he was right there, and his legion of fans naturally,
Again,
despond after a loss.
puffing away on strawberry daiquiri vapes at the local Buffalo Wild Wings while they're sucking down lemon-flavored IPAs to relieve their pain of Bryson's bad Sundays at the Masters.
Sad state of affairs, right? Number one on the list.
Number one is a story that makes me sad. It's come out this week, and I don't get emotional very often here on the show. But if there's anybody I really do miss, and I think the world of sports misses, it's Mike Leach. For those of you who don't know this or not aware of this story, in his final year at Mississippi State, after they changed the rules that allowed things like the tush push and these goal line plays, Mike Leach formulated a plan that he was going to recruit a little person and have a running back throw him over the top of the pile in short yardage situations. But let's be honest, first of all, it's Mike Leach, so he didn't say little person. He said midget. And apparently his assistant coaches talked about this, but man, is it sad that Mike Leach passed away early, because I 100% feel at some point he would have done this. That at some point you would have seen Mississippi State on third inches, and Mike Leach would have brought a little person in at running back and thrown him over the piles. I don't know if he got this idea after seeing dwarf tossing somewhere, but Mike Leach's goal line play was going to be dwarf tossing.
Yeah, a little dwarf bowling, no doubt.
And again, it's Mike Leach, so he might have gotten talked out of it initially.
Yeah.
But at some point he would have done this.
No,
he would have said, and again, this is football's true innovator, was Mike Leach. Nobody had, let's be honest, it's very effective, but the tush push is like the most boring and awful play in the history of the sport of football. But throwing a little person over the pile, I would have watched that on YouTube a million times in a row. I would have spent the entire off season just watching Mississippi State dwarf tossing island.
Is there no video of them practicing this? Like, I feel like this had to have happened.
No. The coach, again, apparently he was out there looking for a little person to recruit.
They just signed
and the coaches tossed him out of it.
They never even try it. I want him to try it so bad.
Again, I feel like, particularly one of these bowl games where everybody sits out, I feel like we would have gotten the Mike Leach dwarf tossing play on third and fourth or short. And my guess is it's Mike Leach, so even if it failed on third, he would have tried it again.
Would have been a tough one to legislate out of the game.
Honestly, R.I.P. Pirate. We missed you so much, because nobody else in the history of football would have even thought of this, much less be out looking for a dwarf to recruit for college football.
Excellent, Professor.
Oh my God!
Great list in a week with no sports. You thought there was nothing going on, and then we get this. So,
I mean, again, you felt bad for me and Justin Rose. Think about the poor waitress at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh my God!
Or Twin
DeChambeau
Peaks,
fans
who had to deal with Bryson DeChambeau fans.
Despondent after that. All right, Professor, we'll catch you in a few minutes here on a little Bury Your Bookie, and thanks so much. I'm sure your fans will be delighted coming back up that strong week last week. Australian rules football and UFL. The Professor, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we have to run. Lubie, always a pleasure, my friend. Got the draft next week. The draft, and we never got to it today, but I'm thinking, I don't know, are there any quarterbacks in there that you think are going to be, top of the line NFL quarterbacks at any point in their careers?
Jackson Dart's interesting. If he's the kind of guy that, because he'll be drafted end of first round, he might get on like a good team
Yeah.
So that, again, that's what we've learned. It's not, yes, once in a while there's a guy that's so great that he can be drafted into what seems like a bad situation, but then it turns out to be a good situation. But usually the guys drafted in the top 10 struggle because they're drafted to crappy organizations. So
Bryce Young, I mean, I don't know if he can play or not. Do you?
no, I still don't know. And again, Trevor Lawrence is the example to me because he's the one that I don't think anyone was wrong about him as a prospect. I think he deserved that like grade. I think he got drafted to literally the worst organization we've seen in football for the last 5 years at least. And he did his best. Remember last year they came back from like 20 something down versus the Chargers. Like Trevor Lawrence has tried. He's just on the Jags. Like, so to me, when you have average quarterbacks then put in bad situations too, it's rough. So like Jackson Dart's the guy that might actually find a good situation. So he could be interesting. He could be interesting.
We'll have all of our Mel Kiperese coming up. Mel's still on his game. I don't know if he's shooting meth or whatever, but he's still very high energy for a guy who's been doing this for like 50 years. Joel Bushbaum, he's 6 feet under a long time ago.
Yep.
So, those two guys kind of brought the draft to at least some level of visibility, and because they were so straight. Well, Bushbaum was a reserve guy that wrote about it, and I always loved the fact that he was describing everything in body parts.
Yep.
A big round buttocks.
Yep.
I mean, would be part of his assessment of evaluating a player. You're like, well, who cares what his ass is shaped like? Joel, what the hell are you all about? All right, we'll see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
9:07.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they